Hello, all. My name is Erta Wanderer, and I've come out of the jungle today to talk with one of our most prestigious generals, the Great Lizard Wizard. Hello, Lizard.
Hello, how are you?
Today I am doing well. My army has been amassing, and we might seize the field in a couple of days.
Nice.
Uh, today we have a very powerful opponent on the horizon that
Mm-hmm.
has caused a lot of people trouble. We're going to be talking about Tzeentch today.
Mm-hmm.
One of the factions that can rival us in magic
Mm-hmm.
and in shooting
Mm-hmm.
and and pretty much everywhere else. They have a lot of units they can draw on, being able to take soldiers from Beasts of Chaos, Slaves to Darkness, and their own forces. What are your
Mm-hmm.
initial thoughts on them?
So I think there's two major things and then another really good thing that make Disciples of Tzeentch a very strong army. They've got a couple of allegiance abilities. All of them are good. The one that's crazy good is their Destiny dice pool. If you don't know what it is, they roll 9d6, and then they can substitute other rolls before they make them with dice from that pool. So if they had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if they wanted and they were trying to cast a spell, they could take a 4 and a 5 and make that their spell roll. Um,
It's
so it's super
remarkable when you
powerful.
need to get that one thing off right.
Yeah. So it makes them very deadly in turns 1 to 2 when they have a large quantity of dice in their destiny pool. Um, but it also makes them a little bit fickle. Like you can see when their dice are hot for their destiny dice, it's great. But if they roll like a bunch of 2s and 3s, then they're with their whole allegiance ability. The other thing they have that makes them incredibly competitive is they have a wide option of building lists that are a single drop,
Mm-hmm.
um, which gives them, not only do they have the destiny dice that make them very strong turns 1 to 2, now they have control over those early turns by almost guaranteeing that they will dictate first turn of the game.
Which is a very powerful ability in almost all
Yeah.
games.
Yeah. I mean, back in the old edition, I used to spend 500 points on battalions in order to be one drop for that very reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And it's a single battalion. This isn't like a super battalion or multi battalion. They've got multiple single battalions that can produce one drop list.
I think the goal was to make them really hard to spec into because most of them need like 8 units to pull
Hmm.
off. But instead, it completely backfired, and now they're just here's your whole army.
Yeah, they were trying to go with that 9 thing, but what the problem they did is they gave too many options for what it is. It's a Lord of Change, specifically the Change Host. This is the
Mm-hmm.
really good battalion. It's a Lord of Change, and then 8 units in any combination of horror heroes, exalted flamers, horrors, flamers, screamers, burning chariots. Like that's all the good stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were like you have to take 8 units of horrors, which now good luck, that's your army. Like uh, 8 10-man pink horrors and a Lord of Change, you don't have room for much else. That would be a lot easier to deal with. But they didn't. They were like just mix and match, actually build good full sized units of the ones you want, throw in a screamer or two for tax in order to fill your battalion.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it'd be like if our Sun Claw said any Saurus unit
yeah, yep.
instead of just
Uh,
warriors.
and there's multiple ones that do that, and they're all good. Like pretty much any of their battalions, if you want, you can make one drop. The only one that you can is like the Kairos and then other Lords of Change, just because it doesn't have battle line included.
Mm-hmm.
But like every other one, it lets you take heroes and battle line in high enough quantities that you can turn any list into a one drop if you want to.
Yeah, and to be fair, 4 drops, the one that doesn't have battle line, is still competitive nowadays. So
Oh yeah, for sure. And the thing that it gives is awesome. It lets you reroll hit, wound, and save rolls of 1 for friendly units from that battalion. Like
That's
that's
impressive.
that's good. Yeah. Um, so yeah, like their battalions are just really strong. There's no downside to them. If you have those models in your army, you want to reduce one of them low enough in count so that you can bring the battalion. Like the battalions are just great. The change host specifically just gives them lords of space and time, as long as that lord of change is alive. Like they can teleport something
Yep.
from that
If
battalion.
anyone's having problem with our teleporting, just let them take 180 points worth of units. That's how much it's worth.
Yeah, yeah, because that's the battalion cost. Uh, well, it's and not even that. It's 180 points to get lords of space and time,
And a
a
one
command
drop.
point, and an artifact.
Yep.
So
Oh, you're right. So our thing is worth 130 because command points are worth 50.
yeah, and then who knows what the artifact's worth.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's yeah, um, it's real good. And then they also summon. That's the like okayish thing. Um,
Yeah.
it it's important for us as Seraphon because we cast a lot of spells, and they generate summoning points by spells being successfully cast. So we run the risk of feeding into their spell casting. Um,
Yeah, and I spent like 4 hours crunching the numbers that they can pump out. They can get like 1,800 points if they build for it.
so if you want to do like full summon Tzeentch, you can run a slew of Gaunt summoners. Um,
Not the best way to do it, but yes, yes, you can. And just
and then
drop.
you can take the multiple endless spells that let you gain extra spells, and then you take Summoner's Pact. So you summon on like 40 pink horrors just from bringing the Gaunt summoners,
The
and then you
Pact
get
of
a bunch of
Summoners,
extra
you
spell.
can't
Yeah,
actually summon pink horrors, only Lords of Change.
Gaunt summoners.
Oh, right. Right, right, right. They do it
Yeah, can do it
automatically.
on their own.
Oh, good
Hmm.
lord. That's right. So, like, if
So
you.
that's 800 points. But you had to pay 220 for the Gaunt summoners. That's
No, you
obviously
have to
fair.
pay 40
Anyways,
for the Gaunt Summoners, because the
yeah,
pinks are
because the pink
200.
horrors. Yeah, exactly. But anyways, and
They are
then
the
the
cheapest
first
hero in
Lord
the
of
game.
Change you summon is only 9, and then 18, and then each one's 30, and you can generate enough spells that by your second turn, you've summoned 2 Lords of Change,
Hmm.
plus 40 pink horrors. Like
And
if you want to
Lords
go
of Change
full
are good
summoner.
casters.
Oh, they are. Yeah, yeah. But I don't think that's the list you're going to see all that often. One, it's a high drop Tzeentch list, which why would you do that?
Hmm.
Uh, two, it's summoning that if you're playing against a different Tzeentch army who chose to go one drop, you're not going to get to use. So it's not like something we actually have to worry about facing.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's weird. Even their gimmicky third tier lists are still something that could take most armies on.
yeah, yeah. They're a bad Tzeentch list is still like better than the best Caradron Overlords list.
Well, yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah, their summoning is really is pretty good normally and can be pushed to uh, old Seraphon ridiculous levels if you try.
Yeah. Hmm. When the book first came out, I was actually thinking because I buy all the battle tomes because I have a problem. Um, and I was reading through this back when we still had the old Seraphim book, and I was thinking to myself like, "Wow, I really like this army, but I don't feel any need to play it because it's just my army." Like it was my army but better, but I was like, I'd have to paint it, and I like my lizards,
Hmm.
so there's no reason for me to collect this army because I won't get any new experience out of playing it. Now it's a bit more tempting because I'm like, oh, I could play old Seraphon, but better. Um, but yeah, it's they have a lot of the same tricks in their wheelhouse that we do. They just have an easier time doing them, and they cost less, and they're better.
Hmm. They're cheaper, better shooting, better spells overall.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
will say that in terms of countering enemy spells, um, I think the like double slan list with the Nashloth bearer and other stuff, like I think we're better at countering spells than Tzeentch,
Oh, we definitely are
especially
better at
once
unbinding.
yeah, especially once Tzeentch has run out of their destiny dice. And now that there's an FAQ, this wasn't the case with the book, and I actually went to 2 tournaments before this changed. But now, whenever you spend a destiny dice, if the roll requires the roll to use 2 dice,
Then you have
then
to
you
use two
must use
dice.
2 destiny dice to complete it. Yeah,
Which,
which is
oh, so good. Lord of
it
Change
is.
being able to just auto 12 all the time was going to be a problem.
Yeah, yeah. And
Well,
that's
in
the
addition to all the other
the
problems with Tzeentch.
the other when I said there's 2 major benefits and then a really good one. The other really good one probably sounded like it was going to be summoning because then we talked about summoning. But that's because I'm really bad at staying on track. The other thing that I was going to say that's their other advantage is Lords of Change. Lords of Change are phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they whenever they roll a casting roll, whatever the highest dice is, you just double it. Like both dice become that dice. And they have a high spell casting quantity. Like they can cast 2 spells.
Kairos can cast 3, and he's like 20
Kairos can
points to
cast
core.
3, and like they have just good spells. They've got the Beacon of Sorcery command trait, which lets them add 1 to casting and unbinding rolls for all friendly Tzeentch demons only with an 18.
They have
Like they're
access to a
just
lot of really good endless spells that help with
mhm.
casting and the Demon Drift.
Yep. And that like so many of their units are also casters. So like there's pink horrors or acolytes. Normally it's one of those 2 things you're going to see spammed. Sometimes it's flamer spam,
Mm-hmm.
but which is also really good. But I think it's going to become increasingly less common. Um,
Oh? What makes you think
yeah,
that?
I think horrors and acolytes are just better than flamers.
Really?
Um, yeah, like the flamers are okay, but taking duplicitous host with pink horror shooting um, is less damage, but it has way more permanency to the board. And
Yeah.
I don't think it mattered when they came out, but I think it matters now. Because one, we like Seraphon can drop damage, especially to low save units, and their whole army's low save.
Right.
Um,
And yeah, losing the second teleport really did hurt the Alpha
mhm.
Flamers.
Yes, exactly. And
Granted, they
the
can
other
still
thing
punch a
is,
massive hole in your army turn 1, but
it's true, yeah.
yeah, not wipe your entire army in one go.
But Lumineth, from the things I've seen, which I don't want to talk too much about them, but Lumineth look very durable, very punchy.
Yeah.
From some of the links or leaks I've seen through things. Um, so once that's actually out in play, and just in general, like losing that second teleport and other stuff, I think the Flamer Alpha Strike is going to become less common than the Duplicitous Host or the Acolyte spam. Like I think if you really want to run shooty Tzeentch, um, Acolyte spam's the best way to run shooty. Uh,
Fair.
Especially once you can start giving them rend 1 and all that other stuff.
Plus, it helps with your summoning generation.
Exactly, exactly. Like that's why it's better and it's more consistent. Like I would rather 30 shots that do 1 damage than 9 shots that do D3 damage. Um, yeah. So it's just a more
True enough. Granted,
consistent.
those 9 shots hit on 2s.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, like it is not at all to say that Eternal Conflagration Flamer Spam Tzeentch isn't good. Like it's a real good shooting army. There's very few things that do shooting as well as they do shooting. But I think Duplicitous Host and Carrick Acolytes, if you want a shooting platform that can do other things,
Mm-hmm.
I just think it gives the army more versatility.
That's fair enough. Yeah. Also, host duplicitous, no one ever realizes, but has things other than the you cannot retreat, and they're really good.
Oh yeah, the brand of the Split Demon. Add 1 to save rolls for attacks that target the bearer.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can put that on a Lord of Change, and now you have a 3+ save Lord of Change.
Yep.
Uh,
They have the possibility of bringing back an entire 20-man blob of pinks, and
yeah,
you can re-roll all casting and unbinds in your entire
yeah, their
army.
command trait is amazing.
Good
Uh,
lord, that's horrifying. Why does no one talk about that?
well, in their command, yeah, like they're just good. Uh, they basically get the Ard boys, the Ard fist, like roll a dice, 5 up, bring them back.
Mm-hmm.
Except it doesn't make you do it within the edge of the board. It's just totally within 12 of a hero and more than 9 from enemies. Like that's crazy. Um,
Especially with how hard pinks are to kill already.
yeah, because you have to do 3 wounds to each pink horror in order to fully remove the body from the table. Um,
That's
well, 4,
five,
but
because one for the pink,
that's
two for
true.
the
And
blues,
then
two for the
2, and then
brims.
2. Yep.
So yeah, every 10 man is 50 wounds. They are the cheapest wounds in the game. And it doesn't
Yeah.
matter that they're on a 6 because there are so many ways that you can get in turn 1 more pinks than you started with.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Just because you can I keep seeing this in tournaments where they run themselves over with endless spells and then heal them
hmm
in order to take that 10 man and make it into a 10 man plus blues. So like
hmm
15 turn 1.
Yep.
That uh, just mm,
hmm
they have staying power.
Yeah, it's really hard to remove them. The good news is though, so the other allegiance ability thing besides their being able to choose different host and being able to generate their dice pool for destiny dice is they're also -1 to hit any, that's their loci. They're -1 to hit any Tzeentch demon that's within 12. I actually don't
I think
remember,
it's
of
9
a
because
Tzeentch demon
everything
hero.
Tzeentch is 9.
Let's see, change loci of change. No, it's wholly within 12.
Oh, okay.
Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons that target friendly Tzeentch demon units that are wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Tzeentch demon hero. Um,
Including the
yeah,
hero themselves. Heroes are really hard to punch off the board.
yeah, because now with Lookout Sir, that's -2 to hit with shooting.
Uh,
Um,
I think it's one in melee, so it's essentially Lookout Sir for melee.
oh, is it only in melee? I thought it was both.
It might be both. What I'm
Oh no,
looking
no,
at.
no! It is only with melee. Yep. So
Yep.
it's just Lookout Sir in melee.
I think I said
Um,
that earlier and gave the wrong impression.
so yeah, like that's just good. Uh, they're a very solid army.
Hmm.
Um,
And another thing they have that everyone seems to forget is their I don't know, I think you'd call them challenges where they declare they're going to do something and it makes them better if they do.
yeah, what are they actually called?
Uh let's see. Gifts of worship?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And most of them are good, nice to have. You would at least should be declaring one every round cuz it's one around, but one I didn't know they had but is really good is called Tides of Anarchy, which if you take an objective from an opponent, then
Yep.
your units count double for objective claiming.
Yeah.
Slap that
And
on
those
a
horrors that are incredibly hard to remove now
and yeah,
that you
slap
can't
that on
recruit
20
from.
pinks, and you
Yep.
now have like up to 100 people controlling that point. No one will ever take it from them. And
Yeah.
with the teleport, you can put them where you need them, so they are
Yeah.
objective grabbers. Ah
Yeah.
man, yeah.
Uh,
Everything I see from Tzeentch just makes me angry.
well, especially with change host, like you can teleport. So you're a 1-drop army. You can teleport. So any of those battle plans with center field objectives like shifting objectives, focal points,
uh,
duality of death,
Meteors.
uh, yeah, like all those ones where you can just turn one teleport onto objectives, and yeah, they're just, it's incredibly difficult to remove them.
Well, is there any wonder why they're doing so well? I wonder when people stopped complaining about them and started complaining about us.
We're the new thing.
Yeah,
It's
probably.
new thing syndrome. And so Seraphon or Disciples of Tzeentch is basically Seraphon but better. But Seraphon is basically Gloomspite gets but better. Um, so like all the people playing Gloomspites are like, hey, that's us but better. So I think there was a bit of that. So that
Sit down, Gobbo. They've been taking
yeah,
our
yeah,
rules away from us for years now.
yep. So yeah.
Plus, we can't get -6 to be hit like you can. Good lord.
One of my really close friends runs Gloomspite gets, and occasionally he'll bring out the Fellwater Troggoths and the Spider Shamans, and like he'll do -4 and -5 to hit. And it's just like, okay, well, that side of the table's yours. Uh, that's way less scary though than their endless spell version, like their
Granted.
Goblin endless spell. That's serious. Goblin negative to hit, real frustrating, but just give them that. Like, just let them win there. Go win somewhere else.
Back on target. Tzeentch has
Yeah.
some good endless spells. One that
Hmm.
will come up and everyone needs to be aware of is the Demon Fire Rift.
Yes.
Because, oh goodness, can that thing drop damage in a Tzeentch list, especially against our army when we have 3 or 4 casters. This, be careful of this thing, guys. This can drop your entire army turn 1.
Yeah. You're talking about the demonic simulacrum.
No, the one that gets stronger the more wizards are around it.
Burning sigil of Tzeentch.
It's the Slaves to Darkness one that they can take.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, they have to bring a slaves to darkness wizard.
They were already
Um,
bringing a Gaunt Summoner, bud.
yeah, it just depends whether or not you go one drop or not. Like if they're bringing a Gaunt summoner, they're not one drop.
2 drops is
Um,
essentially 1 drop nowadays.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's still really good. Um,
And in a Zinch list, this is worth it, especially with all the new Seraphon players out there.
that's true. Yeah,
You will see this in almost every list. But
yeah. They're brutal.
yeah, there's their own ones are also decent. Like the ability to give them +1 to cast and rerolls is is fun, and funny enough,
Yeah,
you
the
can put
tome of eyes or whatever.
yep, you can cast it with a pink horrors unit.
Yeah. Yep.
That makes me laugh. You have this massive Lord of Change, and instead this pink blobs of nothing over here are using it because it follows them
Yeah.
around, and you can use it for blocking.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like good on its own. It's basically cogs, but without some other cogs things.
Yeah,
Like
without the
it's good.
charging.
Yep.
Oh, that's what. Yeah. The other one does random stuff, which isn't great, but it's the plus fun. But it does a lot of fun stuff. And then there's one that doesn't move and gives -1 to be hit. So if you bunker with your wizards,
Yeah, with the sigil and yeah, yeah, they're good. Uh, I the other slaves to darkness endless spell that you may or may not see is just the realm scourge rupture. Like it's going to depend how often or how prevalent combat stays. But realm scourge rupture I actually use decently often when I play my slaves to darkness. Um, and it just slows down charges, does mortal wounds, is a wall that gets in the way, moves in a single direction like pendulum, so they don't have to worry about it coming back.
mm-hmm.
Um, like it wouldn't surprise me if you're already bringing the Gaunt Summoner to bring either of the two.
Yep. And it actually might be worth it to take the Binding of Endless Spells skink spell
Hmm.
in order to
Yeah,
wrest
just so
one
you
of
can
these
steal
away
their
from
endless
them.
spells.
Yep.
Yep.
Like not their ones because like one's bound to a unit, another doesn't move, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but
But
the
if you
Hellfire Rip.
yeah
Hmm.
yeah if STD spells start becoming more common, then yeah, it might be
Yep.
something we want to take just in case. And it'll finally be a good use of that Purge Endless Spells spell we have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see.
And then all the various spells for Tzeentch are pretty much deal D3 mortal wounds in some variation or another. Like there's not necessarily some that are more like Bolt of Tzeentch is always worth trying to stop. Um, the Lord of Change specific spell, the Gate, is
Hellfire Gate.
always worth. Yeah, that's always worth trying to stop. The magistrate spell, you also always want to stop. You don't want to give them free
Oh yeah,
damage and
he has our
uh,
Horde Breaker
chaos
as his
bonds.
standard spell.
Yeah, yeah. And same for like the freaking Gaunt Summoner. Their spells are also great. Um, but
Arcs,
basically just ask what each spell does when they're casting it. Like, how many mortal wounds does this one do? Um,
yeah. My
those are the ones we want to be doing.
another
We will.
one to be
Mhm.
wary of is Arc Suggestion. Being able to
Mm,
drop both hit and wound rolls at the same time is not fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good.
Yeah. It's good that all of their good spells are tied to mortal wizards who don't get the dice shenanigans that Lords of Change do,
Yes.
because Lords of
Yeah.
Change spells are significantly less impressive, but be on the lookout. Kairos can cast his minion spells. So,
Yeah. Well, and you can reasonably expect any not Lord of Change wizard to have +1 to their casting anyways, because of the Lord of Change command ability. Um,
mm, yep.
yeah, and then you throw in um, Destiny dice, and all of a sudden you can have some really rough turn 1 and 2 uh, friendly and enemy hero phases against them.
Fair enough. Besides the flamer list that's on its way out, what are the lists you've most come in contact with in the tournaments? I know there wasn't a whole lot of time, but
Yeah, so the Flamer list was the list I saw. Um, that's the one that people were playing in my area. Um, just because I think Games Workshop featured the Eternal Conflagration when they were doing their What's Tzeentch thing.
mm-hmm.
And so people already like that's the thing they were looking at straight when they went into the book. Sort of how people did the same with Stegageddon, and it's bad. Um, it just turns out Eternal Conflagration, like everything in Tzeentch, is good. Um,
Most things in Tzeentch.
yeah, yeah, it's hard to build. You can definitely do it. Um, but building an Iron Man list out of Tzeentch is a challenge in and of itself. Like you're going to be able to get wins with it.
They just have so
Um,
many options. They have more heroes than we do.
mhm, yep. Uh, but yeah, there's the Eternal Conflagration list. That's the one that I pretty much always saw. There's the Host Duplicitist, which is pink horror spam. Normally also run as a 1-drop. Both of these are almost always run as change host.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you could run them as other things. Like there's plenty of other good battalions you could run them as. It's just change host is amazing. Overseers of Fate is also good. It's just not as good as change host. It lets you recycle some of your destiny dice. So if you're wanting to do destiny dice shenanigans with change host and you're doing that whole 5-up set up an identical unit, you can keep recycling those dice for 5-ups so you can keep doing that and it's
Mm.
broken.
That's one of the good things about all their one-drop battalions. They're too expensive to take more than one of them.
Yeah, yeah, which is nice. Like while they are 1-drop, they are at least single battalion. Not that that's too much of a setback.
It
Um,
mainly means they can't mix and match for some of the shenanigans that this army definitely could have pulled off if they were cheaper.
oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. They could have done some crazy stuff. And you'll definitely see some mixing and matching between the mortal side and demon side. But if you're
Mostly it'll
playing
be
demons,
demons.
you're pretty much just going to be demons. Um,
I mean, Locust of
the
Change is very good.
yeah, yeah, it's good. And the battalion, the change host is just really good. So if you're taking change host, you don't have a whole lot of room to throw in a bunch of other stuff. Um,
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's why Geminids is so good. -1 to be hit. Eesh.
mhm, yep. And then the other that you might start seeing is Arcane Cabal. Um, this is acolyte spam.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you bring a Fate Master if you want, a Magistrate if you want, a Zangor Shaman if you want, and then 3 to 9 models. Anyways, what's crazy about it is it's all heroes. It's
Mm-hmm.
3 to 9 of them, and each hero gets an extra spell if it's a Magistrate or a Zangor Shaman.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, so those 1 spell models all of a sudden are 2 spell models. Whenever you spend a Destiny dice, I'll just read this one specifically. After armies have been set up before the first battle round begins, pick a friendly model from this battalion. For the rest of the battle, each time you spend a destiny dice to replace a dice uh, for that model, roll a dice on a 2+, replace one of your remaining destiny dice with that roll. So it just lets you keep cycling. Then there's the other hero version that gives all of your magistrates one extra spell. So now it's a 2 spell slot wizard. And that can also be used for spamming spells. Uh,
Who knew? The people who get stronger by casting spells get more
yeah.
spells.
And then the other, like, if you're running Acolyte spam for shooting, is the Witchfire Coven. It's 3 units of Carrick Acolytes, and then a unit of Zangor Enlightened. Um,
Who are still pretty decent.
oh, yeah, they're great on foot or disc, but these ones are specifically on foot. But once per turn in your hero phase, you pick a friendly Carrick Acolyte unit, and they can shoot. So Acolytes just get to shoot in the hero phase. One of those 3 units.
Didn't they
Um,
take that away from us because it was considered too strong?
yeah. And Carrick Acolytes are they're strong units. Um, if I were going to build shooting Tzeentch, it would definitely be the Acolyte version. They're Sorcerer's Bolts in 18-inch range, 4s and 3s. So it's already better than blowpipes.
By a
Um,
good deal.
yeah. Um, they're built in, oh, and they're wizards, but as well.
Yeah, their spell
They're
makes
built in
sense. So it's
spell.
Rend 1, right?
Yeah, it's Gestalt sorcery. It makes their sorcery. It increases the rend characteristic of that sorcerer's bolt attack by 1. So now they're rend 1 spells.
And
Um,
I think there's more to it. I think it also raises hits by 1, but let's pull that up.
um,
Battleline.
you can just cast it multiple times. It's like one of those
Oh.
built-on spells. So like each unit of Carrick Acolytes can cast that spell. It's not just pick a unit and do
Yeah,
that
so
too.
it's just give it Rend.
Yeah. Um,
Which is stupid good.
yeah.
And
Uh,
these guys aren't expensive. They're only 100 points for 10.
yeah, yeah. No, they're really good. Like I like them more than the Flamers just because while they're not as accurate, there's more of them. Um, and they're a wizard, which feeds into all your other things.
Mm.
Um,
It's
I like them.
mostly
I like them better than Eternal Conflagration. Um,
yeah, it's
yeah.
mostly that they're already wizard spit
Yep.
and they don't need
Uh,
any support for it cuz yeah, they do about half as much damage in shooting as flamers, but are probably going to stick around for longer.
yes. They do have. I want to say it's like they have a host that specifically helps acolytes. And let me see if I can find it. It makes that shooting that's already good that much better. Let's see. Is this it? Yeah. Okay. So the pyrophane cult add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with sorcerer's bolts
That was it.
by pyrophane acolytes. In addition, at the end of your shooting phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit that took any wounds. And then on a 5+, they take another D3 mortal wounds. Their command ability lets you pick a profane cult acolyte unit, wholly within 12, and you can reroll wound rolls for attacks made by that unit in that phase. And then it subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with missile weapons that target their general, which is how you can get to the -2 lookout, sir, on your
Mm.
Lord of Change if you want. Um, yeah, they're just good. Like they can get that +1 to hit, +1 to wound, uh, add 1 attack. Um, yeah, they're really
Yeah,
good.
it's a good thing you can't summon them.
Yes, yes. You just use all their spells because you can bring multiple min-sized units, and now you're casting like 5 or 6 spells just off having acolytes and use those for summoning.
Mm.
Um, or you can bring multiple big units if you're trying to run the shooting host where you get to shoot once for free in your hero phase with them.
Yeah,
Um,
normally we
the
don't
Witchfire
have to
Coven.
bother, but with Tzeentch especially, we're gonna have to really be careful to which spells we unbind.
Yes, yeah.
Because most lists I build only have 5 to 6 unbinds, and they can pump out like 9 to 15 spells depending.
Yeah, consistently and easily between pink cores, acolytes, and their actual heroes. Um, yeah, and then there. Let's see. I am not finding it. Where's the one that gives them +1 spell? Hmm. Maybe my brain just entirely made that up.
I know they have a couple of command traits that give them +2 spells,
Hmm.
but
Oh, maybe it's from the Summoners Guild host. Because that's how the list was run. Hmm. Nope, not seeing it.
regardless, they've got a lot of fun toys.
Hmm.
Uh, so, now that we've gone into great detail of how they're going to punch us in the face, how do you think is the best way for Seraphon to not get punched in said face?
Yeah, basically, you're just going to have to accept that they're going to punch you in the face. Uh, and you're going to have to eat that punch. So, your goal in deployment, one, you're operating under the assumption that they are dictating the initial turn.
Because, yeah,
Uh,
we're Seraphon, they're
so,
Tzeentch. It's the absolute worst situation in that case.
yep, it's easy to explain what needs to happen, but it's going to be a little bit difficult to actually practice it in execution. But what your goal in deployment needs to be is to deploy in such a way that you are controlling what they have access to alpha strike so that it is a valuable enough target that that's the one they will choose instead of the one you want more,
Mm-hmm.
and that once they do that you can then retaliate and remove the thing or hurt the thing that did the alpha striking.
So our goal is to make a honey trap.
Yeah. So that's the first thing you definitely have to do, because ideally you want them to take first turn. If they make us go second, um, and we get double turned by their spells, that's going to really, really hurt. Same is true for them, though. So if we can make them want to take that alpha strike and then we can double turn them, we have a good shot at just winning out of that. Um, while you're doing that whole honeypot thing, you also have to deploy in such a way that if they decide they want to go second, you can still make something of your first turn.
Oh no.
Um,
So you're saying we have to outthink Tzeentch.
yeah, exactly. Which, if you've been playing Seraphon for like the past couple years, you're already used to having to outthink your opponent, anyways.
Granted.
Um, so that's what the goal is during deployment. Um, the other thing is if you're playing against Tzeentch, put your Realm Shaper engine on the table.
Really?
Um, yeah, the benefit to risk ratio that you get is massive. One, Tzeentch already has the advantage. And I feel like anytime you're playing against an opponent who has the advantage, put Realm Shaper engine on the table. If you have to have luck to win, you have to make opportunities for luck to present itself. Um, being able to block line of sight on that thing you don't want them to be able to shoot, uh, super important. Being able to shoot lasers at their squishy wizards, also super important, because you don't have to hit, you just do. Like their whole shtick of being harder to hit and everything, like you can just straight up skirt that. Um, so definitely put your Realm Shaper engine on the table, and I would say put it in a territory where you are hoping to be able to garrison. Like don't put it out in no man's land or something. Like there might be situations where you want to do that. Um, like we've got the whole Realm Shaper engine guide. There's at least two of them on the Lestria site that talk about reasons to do either of those things. But generally speaking, you just want to put it in a deployment, hope to be able to get that deployment and hide things behind it and or deploy it. Because getting that -1 to be hit +1 save goes a long ways. It turns a skink priest into a much harder target to kill, or you can just straight up hide that skink priest from line of sight behind the Realm Shaper engine. Um, So yeah, I say definitely throw the Realm Shaper engine on the table if you were playing against Disciples of Tzeentch.
Fair enough. Yeah,
Um,
at least their pinks can't use it.
yeah, yeah, and like there's pretty much nothing that they really want to put inside of it.
Flamers.
Um, they could put Flamers in it, and they could put Carrick Acolytes in it. But frequently those units, the Flamers, they have to come to you. So if they're putting
I
Flamers in
don't
it,
know.
and
They
you,
have 18-inch range, don't they?
yeah, they do, but 18 inches a lot of times isn't going to hit. Like so, if you're specifically they're playing the Alpha Strike army,
Uh
um, sure, put your Flamers in it.
huh.
Like
That's fair.
I, yeah, at least that's sort of like my approach to it. Like, okay, that's one less unit of flamers that's going to be coming at me right away. Like, you're not going to be running at the table to flame me. Because
Oh.
that's the other thing. Like, even though they have Lord of the Change Host, where they could do the Lords of Space and Time, flamers have fly and they're not slow. So,
No, no, they are
uh,
not.
yeah, on some battalions or battle plans, if you're deploying right up against the line for both of them, they're just going to
26
come
are
up
an
and get you
edge.
anyways. Um, Yeah, so like if they're putting flamers in a realm shaper engine, cool. That's one less flamer coming my way. That's sort of my view on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You could also bunker the Lord of Change in there.
yeah,
That'd
they
be
totally could.
annoying.
But we don't have to kill the Lord of Change. It's awesome. Like we have the tools to do it because generally speaking, they're only a 4+ save. Um, which if it's got a 4+ save, Seraphon can kill it. Like that's almost universally true. Unless there's a bunch of other extenuating factors. They've got a 4-up save with 14 wounds. Like we've got a number of things that can just like take that off the table. You get a little bit lucky with a 4 unit of salamanders, and you might kill it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Uh,
which, what is our preferred target list for Tzeentch?
yeah. So it's actually changed because I wrote that forever ago. But what I would prioritize if I'm looking at Tzeentch across the table, first and foremost, if they have Gaunt summoners on the table who haven't used their book of bullshit of summoning yet, because it's once per game,
Mm-hmm.
kill that. Like you're just straight up denying them 200 points. Do that. Um, I would probably even do that over scoring objectives, and I'm real objective hungry as a player.
Right.
Um,
Because yeah, bringing on that many points of stuff that easily is really powerful.
yeah,
If they haven't used it turn one, then A, they're stupid. B, take advantage on it of it.
yep, yep. And then after that, and they double up here because they have the demon keyword, and they're a Tzeentch hero. So the next thing that I want to kill is minor Tzeentch demon heroes because I want to start taking away those loci. I want to start taking away from their spell count pool. I want to start denying them spell lores. Um, and I want to
Especially if
start
Paris is
making
on
them
the
have to
table.
take battle shock. Yeah. Yep. They have enough command points and other things that, and Destiny dice. That battle shock doesn't really matter for Tzeentch until like
Turn three.
turns 3+. Um, so you also want to kill those minor heroes that can provide those vectors. Um, by the time they've run out of Destiny dice, so now they have to start taking battle shock. Battle shock is one of the easiest ways to get rid of horror units. Because once you've done those initial 10 wounds and you've killed off the 10 pink horrors, now they've got all these other horrors, and those guys are going to start dropping really quick. They're all low wound. They're like you're going to
Yeah,
start
it's not
forcing
hard
battle
to deal
shots.
20 damage to a Pink's list.
Yeah, yeah. When they've got the 5+ save and all of that.
Like, even our
Um,
skinks can probably wipe a good chunk of pinks off the board nowadays. Like,
oh yeah, for
not with
sure.
our old stuff. With our old stuff, I just ignored them. But
Same. Yeah.
but yeah,
Um,
and if you do that to enough, they can't. That will A, eat through their destiny dice really quickly.
mhm.
So, but B, they're gonna shock right off the table if you can put on enough pressure in enough places.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So you want to get rid of those hero vectors just because it's so useful. However, if your opponent is just dumb and they give you their Lord of Change, take it. Um,
He is definitely worth it.
yeah,
He
like you don't want Beacon of Sorcery on the table for them. Like we've got a potential on average. I think almost all Seraphon will pretty much have a +2 to casting. Like
mm,
I think that's pretty expected. We can definitely get to a +4, but I think you're normally going to be expecting for us to be a +2, a +3. Um, so getting rid of that +1 makes our advantage that we have in spellcasting that much stronger.
plus it
Um,
lets us use endless spells.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
that is the real thing that hurts about the Lord of Change. Being able
Spell
to
leader.
auto unbind
Yep.
endless spells is just so
It does,
strong.
however, happen in their hero phase, and it has to be within 18.
Hmm.
And Lord of Change uh, can't really afford to be super aggressive coming up table. So as long as you can keep the fight on multiple fronts, you should be able to find places to put endless spells to get effect.
Hmm.
Um,
He won't be
like,
unbinding Croak is the thing, which is good.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's not going to eat your Belwyn Vortex. Um, you're still going to be able to throw out your Celestial Deliverance damage, all of that.
Hmm.
Um, this also, I would say, in terms of like figuring out matchup, this is the one army that I think Coalesced has a better innate vantage against over Starborn.
Hmm.
Um, the exception is the Acolyte spam list. Starborn's way better at dealing with the Acolyte spam
Right,
list.
because they don't
But
do
if
3 damage.
yep. But that the Flamer spam list specifically, I think Coalesced is better at dealing with. Um,
Oh, it's a
it's still
shame
not
they're
enough to
only
make
out.
me play Coalesced, but
Yeah. Unless you know what you're up against.
yeah, like if I'm tailoring it, or if like I'm like, okay, I'm going to this event. Let's look and see who else is going to this event. Oh wow, it's 4 people that I know that play Eternal Conflagration. Then I might play Coalesce.
It's
um,
actually really Tzeentch is really good at bringing out our niche stuff,
mhm,
like
mhm.
the board wide endless spell dispel one. The
Oh yeah, because we can get rid of all their backline support spells and other things.
mm, and a couple of the skinks, like situational but not bad spells. The the general casting through skinks, while normally it's something you're all, oh yeah, that's a benefit, really helps against Tzeentch.
Oh,
Because
for
being
sure.
able
Yeah.
to cast outside of unbind range is super important.
Hmm.
Yeah, all these things that we like to have but don't need become really good against Tzeentch.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, and like their minor heroes, they're pretty much all just as good as the next. Basically, snowball upwards when you're trying to deal with minor heroes.
Mm-hmm.
So if it has the lower the wounds, the sooner you want to start targeting it.
Oh,
Um,
and thing, prioritize killing the changeling.
yeah, yeah, you want the changeling dead.
You do
Um,
not want to be hit by our meteor spell.
yep. You want the got summoners dead. All those things. You want the scribes dead. But always try and snowball upwards if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because getting a unit off is more important than getting not quite killing the more important unit.
yep. And we really can't afford like any inefficiencies. Magistrates, I think, is the unit that is the most undervalued in Disciples of Tzeentch.
Mm-hmm.
They have a specific spell called Bolt of Change that's unique to them. It's a different Bolt of
Oh,
Change.
that's the one that turns them into a chaos spawn, right?
Yeah, they become a Tzeentch Chaos Spawn. So it deals D3 mortal wounds to a unit within 18 inches that's visible to them. If any of those models are slain from it, you can add one Tzeentch Chaos Spawn within 3 inches of that slain model's unit.
And the downside
Um,
is that then ties up said unit.
exactly, because it's in combat. Um, so that's like not to give Tzeentch players any more ideas on how to play. But that's a wizard that if I see on the table, I'm gonna really want to kill because I'm assuming they're one of those people who are like, oh whoa, this is crazy good, and I can use it to tie up a bunch of things. Like I'm expecting them to know how to use that if they brought it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's real nasty. So I would prioritize that over like one of their uh, horror heroes. Um,
This is a
yeah.
really long list, but it's because everything in Tzeentch is so good.
hmm
So
and
good.
then kill acolytes. Uh, acolytes become not wizards much quicker for their unit size. I think they have to have 9 in order to be a wizard.
Yeah,
Um,
both pinks and acolytes need 9.
yep. But acolytes don't do the whole splitty thing. So it's a lot easier to de-wizard them. Um, so hit acolytes if they have acolytes, just to start reducing those spell counts. And you don't really care about pink horrors until you're going to be battle shocking them anyways. And then pink horrors. Like if you're playing against duplicitous host, change host, and they throw pink horrors in your face, just give them all the barrels. Like just unload on that pink horror unit, you'll kill it. Like if it's your whole Seraphim army and they've thrown pink horrors at you, you will kill those horrors.
Yeah,
Um,
a Saurus block will wipe, uh, will do, I believe, 36, 38 damage to a pink's block,
yep.
and skinks will do upwards of 20 because
Yeah.
they don't have to worry about saves, which normally kills their shooting.
Yes. And horrors, like they have a 6-up save, so like uh, anything you can put rend on them. Like if you're playing, let's say Sunclaw Star Host, you're just going to tear through Duplicitous Host.
Oh yeah.
Like who cares if you can't retreat? You're winning.
Hmm.
Uh, so I guess the first step to beating Duplicitous Host is to play Starborn Sunclaw Star Host. You'll just win.
Yeah. We are already a very competent counterpunch army, and
hmm
that's the worst thing for Tzeentch.
Yep.
Tzeentch wants to be able to deal with you immediately and just move on, and they can't do that with us.
Yeah.
We're
And
we're too meaty.
the yeah, we definitely are. And their Alpha Strike, if they're playing Duplicitous Host Horror Spam, isn't really that scary. Like they'll kill a chunk of skinks, but their shooting is like basically as bad as ours. It's a 12-inch range, 5 and 4 without rend, 1 damage.
It
Um,
will hit you hard, but we've been being hit hard for ages, and we know how
yeah,
to deal with the Stalingrad list.
hmm and they do get +1 to hit rolls if their unit has 20 or more models. So that'll happen. Uh, and then they add 1 to the attack characteristics for melee with a bunch of. They're an annoying unit that continually respawns. Mostly, you just have to pay attention and not let them tie things up in combat by splitting that you didn't want tied up in combat. So, paying attention to your buffer zones when you're going to start whittling them down really matters because you don't want to end up in a place, especially if you're playing Fangs of Sotek like I will be, where you shoot them and then let them kill off units and split them so that then they can reach another unit and now that skink unit's in combat,
Or an
so
objective
you
point.
can't use or an objective, but specifically against Fangs of Sotek, they might be able to pull it in combat and now you can't use your command ability to shoot them when you get charged. um,
Yeah. Oh, also, wrap them if you can. If you can surround that 10 or 20 man unit entirely and
yeah,
then
they don't
start
have a
killing
place to
them,
put the model. Yep.
yep, there's no place to go and they lose out on a lot of wounds that way.
Yes. Yeah, that's always ideal. And now I'm actually curious. Split again. How is that going to work? If you
Hmm?
cannot set up additional models this way, they are removed from play. Okay, they don't count as being slain. I was curious. I had to go through and read
Yeah.
that.
So if they lose
Um,
blues, they lose the blue and the brim.
yeah, it just doesn't count as being slain. I was hoping you could also trigger some massive battle shock, but
Yeah,
they
that would
weren't
be a
that nice
shame.
to us.
But yeah, I
But yeah,
mean,
like
losing 50% of their additional wounds is already really good. It takes them from a 50 man unit to a 30 man unit.
oh yeah, yeah. And pink horrors are expensive. Um, like they're not going to be able to spam them to the same way
Yeah.
that we can spam
Cheap for
stuff.
what they do, but base cost is expensive, yes.
Yeah, it's 200 points per 10 pink horrors. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like they're
I mean, that's still really, really cheap,
oh
but
for
yeah.
sure, yeah. But they've got that 6-up save, and they're splitting. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
roughly as durable as like liberators. For their like wounds for cost for save, like for what their actual wounds are. Um, because the second you put any actual rend onto them, like it just they melt.
They melt, but they their durability has never been saves. It's always been the fact that you're dealing with a huge chunk of
Splitting.
yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. So be sure to if you do attack them, be sure to kill the pinks in one go because you don't want them coming back.
Yeah, or hit them enough that you think you can, uh, like if you've got shots that you don't know where else to put, if you can make them have to take a battle shock test so that now they either um, have to use a destiny dice or a command point. Uh, if you're still in command points and making them use it on that, then they're not using it to get +1 to casting for all their wizards. If you're making them use destiny dice, they're not using them to cast spells.
Mm.
Um,
I'm just glad that they can't auto pass Battle Shock like they used to.
yeah, well, so they auto pass. The all demons have an icon. Uh, all
Yeah, they
demon
auto
battle line
pass on a one.
infantry have a icon, and if they pass a battle shock test on a 1, then instead of anything running they get d6 back. Pink horrors also have that standard demon ability,
Yep.
but the errata specifically said they pass the battle shock with a 1, but it doesn't count as a 1,
That
so
wasn't
they
even the
don't.
worst part. The worst part was that those dice used to not be affected by Battle Shock modifiers. So a 3 was just a 3,
Yeah. Yep.
and a 4 was just a 4. So if you spent any Destiny dice on that, they just auto passed it and ignored it.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, because they had bravery 10. Yeah. But you could also use a 1, and so then you auto passed and you got d6 back.
Mm.
Now that 1 doesn't give them d6 back. That got
So
errata.
much better.
Yeah. Yeah. You can actually kill them now.
Yeah. Alrighty.
um,
Anything else
but yeah,
pressing to
that's pretty much
address?
Tzeentch. Uh, expect to take losses. Like you have to play for luck. Like you can't play a slow grindy game. They're better at that than us. Their summoning's better than ours. Their burst is better than ours. So we have to beat them on table and overwhelming odds. So like
So it's
using a
just our old
refused
book
flank.
again. We're good.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, like I will probably be using a lot of a refused flank where like I'm overstacking on one side during deployment.
Mm.
Um, or that kind of a thing. Like that's the advantage, right? They are low drop. So we can counter deploy how they deploy. Um, so make sure you're taking advantage of that. Like try and bait things out of them. If you get your side with the Realm Shaper engine and you have a Skink Priest, but you're not planning to run and shoot, maybe throw that Skink Priest in there right away. And like now they think you're going to pile up here. So like using their low drop against them, um, as much as you can. Like they're
Mm.
obviously going to use split dropping and that kind of a thing, but be mindful of how you're playing your drops. Um,
Yep.
we should, in theory, have slightly more information than them during deployment.
Yeah. It is our toughest matchup. That's true of a lot of people because it's Tzeentch, but
Yeah, yeah.
yep,
This is the best army in the game at the moment. Like yeah,
by a significant
Tzeentch,
margin.
yeah. Like they don't struggle with OBR at all, and they don't struggle with Fire Slayers at all. Like that's how damagey they are. Um, yeah.
And all the shenanigans they can pull. So practice it if you can. If you have a friend who plays them, it's okay to take a couple losses. It
Yep.
happens in this game, and there's no shame in losing to Tzeentch.
For sure. Yeah. I do think it's worth like if you're trying to do tournaments and events, whatever list you're making for Seraphon, whenever you get your event packet, run through how you plan to play against Tzeentch on each of those battle plans that are in the packet. Um, you want to come into it with a plan, uh, and you have to know what places to try to make luck. Like you're not going to beat them just by being better. You're going to have to be better and lucky. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I know that's not a lot of help for everyone who's wondering how to beat these guys, but until GW pulls this together, we're gonna have to deal with the hand we're dealt.
Yep. I think they're a cool army though. Like,
At least they look pretty.
yeah, they look pretty. I don't think they're necessarily bad for the game because you can beat them, and they're not so feel-bazzy as like
As old Slanesh,
killing.
um,
Yeah,
certain
like
versions of orcs. Uh,
killing one fire slayer. Like the yeah. So
it is like fighting our old book. Like
mhm,
people used
mhm.
to kill hundreds of my skinks and I'd still win because, but at least it felt good like killing this endless horde.
Yeah, yeah. So they're basically old Seraphon but better. Uh, if you're used to playing old Seraphon a lot, I think it becomes easier to see the ways to foil their plays.
Hmm.
Um, but you have to be proactive. Like you're not going to happen into a victory against any Tzeentch player who knows what they're doing. Um, yeah. Our biggest advantage, presumably, is that a Tzeentch player is expecting to win. Uh,
And win
yeah,
easily.
yeah. So like those honeypots and that type of a thing, you're gonna have to play the board as much as you're gonna have to play your opponent.
Hmm. At least for the first couple months before they start
Yeah,
losing.
before GHB.
Yep. I wasn't thinking of that. I was just thinking more like how the meta behind an army changes when like if people start beating them because of overconfidence, that's gonna not gonna last very long.
That's true. Yeah. Also, if one of the I think Tzeentch is going to suffer from the flavor of the month club thing that all good armies that look cool suffer from. Like Seraphon's going to have this as well. There's going to be a big drop off. Uh, but there's a lot of people who have bought Tzeentch and they've got their one way that they're planning to run Tzeentch, and they watch the video on how to do that. And when they lose a bunch of games because you can't buy your way to victory in this game,
Hmm.
Tzeentch is going to drop off. Um, Seraphon's going to have the exact same thing happen. I think a little bit less so because they're dinosaurs.
Right.
Um,
We already
yeah.
had a massive popularity when we were a bad army, and now
Yep.
we're a good army,
Yep.
and I was completely expecting this. We're still sold out online, guys. Woo!
Yeah. So I gotta. This is a little side. Uh, I have a Games Workshop web store account that's a distribution account.
Hmm.
Um, and so I asked for like the email notice of tell me when chameleon skinks are back in stock. Um, I'm building a chameleon skink army.
Doesn't
But
surprise me. They're
anyways,
fun units.
um, I had the email me when they're back in stock, and I got the email, and I didn't see it for 15 minutes, and then I went to the web store and they were out of stock. Uh,
So I think this is more than just flavor of the month. I think everyone loves Seraphon. They always
yeah,
have. They
yeah,
just couldn't stand playing them.
yep.
Cause
Uh, which is going to make it difficult for us, right? Because people are going to see Seraphon and they're going to be like, I know what your stick is. Before, if you played Seraphon, I would show up at tables with people that are like in the top 10 in the US for ITC, and they're like, remind me what your army does. Uh,
and that was even then we were still like in the top 8 armies played.
yeah, yeah.
We just never got
Uh,
to high
but
tables.
that's the thing. Those top 10 guys never saw it. So, yeah. Like that phenomena for us is gone. Like no one's gonna be like, remind me how your army plays. Like everyone's gonna know. Uh,
Eh,
yeah,
we've always been very tricksy. We're still that way. People just pay more attention.
yeah, yeah. I think the army's in a much better place than it was. I just still miss the old way. I liked
I
the old way
know.
more.
We both
But
miss the old way because we established ourselves very firmly in the old way.
yeah, yep.
Alrighty, well, that is our best advice for dealing with the current top dog of the meta. Is there anything else you want to say, Wizard?
Yeah. Keep putting in questions if you have specific questions for us. If this wasn't helpful at all, uh,
Feel free to yell
let
at
us
us.
know. Like we didn't give a whole lot of concrete answers other than sort of our kill list. Um, and
It's hard with
yeah,
Tzeentch.
it is like it. You just have to be good at the game. Like that's a really bad advice to give, but get good scrub. That's how you beat them.
Alrighty. Well, the jungle's calling me home. Be free to put questions in both the comments and Lustry online. We'd be happy to help. But you all have a wonderful night.
Thank you, everyone.